one is unable to fix his mind on the impersonal existence of the absolute truth. One can imagine any form he likes and fix his mind on that imaginary form. But such process is not recommended here. Imagination is always imagination and results only in further imagination. A concrete description of the eternal form of the Lord is given here. The Lord's soul is depicted with distinctive lines resembling a thunderbolt, a flag, a lotus flower, and a goat. The luster of his toenails, which are brilliantly prominent, resembles the light of the moon. If a yogi looks upon the marks of the Lord's soul and on the blazing brilliance of his nails, then he can be freed from the darkness of ignorance in material existence. The liberation is not achieved by mental speculation, but by seeing the light emanating from the lustrous toenails of the Lord. In other words, one has to fix his mind first on the lotus feet of the Lord if he wants to be freed from the darkness of ignorance in material existence. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshurmalitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namo Sri Chaitanya Manofistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaiham Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Utapadakamala Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam साद्वैतम सावधूतम परिजन सहितम कृष्ण चैतन्य देवम श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सहगन ललिता श्री विशाखा वितंश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमो जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Gachal Nivasa Nitya Paramatmane Balabhadra Subhadra Bhak Jagannatha Namo. So thank you so much for joining this wonderful Sangha. And what a powerful verse to focus our attention and discussion uh, today morning. So here, Kapiladev, the son of Devahuti, is explaining to him, Mother Devahuti, the process of devotional service. And this chapter is focused on instructions on the execution of devotional service. And in this verse, the 21st verse, there are so many wonderful things spoken about the lotus feet of the Lord. So it's a very wonderful opportunity that we're discussing about the glories of the lotus feet of the Lord with this wonderful set of devotees who are attending. Because here, Kapiladev is explaining some of the features of the Lord. The features of the Lord, which implies it's a lotus feet. Why Lord's feet is called a lotus feet? And also, in addition to, we'll be discussing about why Lord's feet is called a lotus feet. There are marks of Vajra, thunderbolts, in the lotus feet of the Lord. And also, there are marks of Ankusha. Basically, it's a rod with three emanating objects. It's not the Trishul, but it's called Ankusha. And it's also featured with Dhwaja. Dhwaja means flag. Often, whenever there is a victory, the king installs a victory flag on the kingdom because that entire kingdom belongs to that king. And Lord's lotus feet has Dhwaja, a banner or a flag. And then Lord's nails are brilliant. Lord's nails are prominent. Lord's nails are red and it's prominent. And Kapiladev is saying, if you focus your attention on the lotus feet of the Lord, on the thunderbolt, mark of the Lord, or the ankusha, or the rod, which is there in the lotus feet of the Lord, and the victory flag, which is there on the lotus feet of the Lord, and the brilliant nails, red brilliant nails, rakta, it's red in color. Then from our heart, all the darkness will be dispelled. So that's the real purpose of this discussion. And this is a beautiful subject matter. We'll go into this. So here is the beautiful lotus feet of the Lord. And there will be future speakers who will be talking about other objects, other marks. So we will not go into that because we don't have to steal their thunder. So we'll focus on few things, three or four things, which is explained in this verse. Vajra, as you can see, Vajra is this thunderbolt, Vajra. The gourd, this is the gourd, the Ankusha, with some protruding objects, not Trishul really, Ankusha. And Dhwaja, flag, the victory flag, and the prominent nails, and the circle of moon, Ardhachandra. So we'll focus on these four items today for the purpose of today's discussion. So as you can see, Lord's lotus feet is very, very beautiful. And like a lotus is around a muddy water, but lotus is untouched by the purity, untouched by the filth of or the mud or uh, unclean elements around the lotus. Lotus, when the lotus comes out, lotus is clean, untouched by the surroundings. So Lord is Trigunatit. Lord is Trigunatit. Three guna, like three gunas are there. The mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And Lord is Atit. Atit means beyond. Lord is Trigunatit, Atit, beyond these three modes. So Lord is untouched by the modes of material nature. Lord is eternal. Lord is untouched. So that's the reason why our acharyas compare Lord's lotus feet, compare Lord's feet like a lotus feet, because like lotus is untouched, and it's also very beautiful like lotus. That's a secondary reason. But the main reason is Lord's lotus feet is untouched by the surroundings. He's Trigunatit, and that quality is exemplified in a lotus. That's why if a person is from a very difficult surrounding and he is from a very challenging, poor family, and he goes on to do very well, he's often compared with lotus in our society. If you see, he is like a lotus. He was surrounded by all kind of, his parents were not supportive, his society was not supportive, but he was very strong and he came out. And Lord is million and trillion times more powerful than that. But just staying with the example of lotus, uh, he is his feet is so beautiful, and he is untouched by the elements. So he is like, his feet is like a lotus. And he has some very prominent marks, and these marks uh, identifies some of the attributes, some of the features of the Lord. So when Krishna was in Vrindavan, he was not wearing shoes. That's why you'll find Krishna's foot marks, Krishna's lotus feet marks in the soil, in the soil of Vrindavan and Gokul. That's the reason why they say, and in everywhere else, Krishna became a king in Dwarka, and often in that place where Krishna did not wear shoes, his lotus feet are imprinted. So Krishna and Balaram's lotus feet are very prominent, very beautiful. So when Akrura came to fetch Krishna and Balram. Before he could meet Krishna and Balram, he saw the lotus feet of Krishna and Balram in the soil of Vrindavan, and so prominent based on what we discussed, the uh, the marks, the chakra, the crescent moon, the victory flag. Seeing that, seeing so many prominent uh, objects, Akrura was stunned. He started crying, and he started taking that soil and putting it in the head. So the power of where our Supreme Personality of Godhead has exhibited till today, you'll see devotees going and rolling in the soil of Vrindavan. And this is exemplified by many of our senior acharyas, uh, from Mayapur, whenever there is a festival, and Jananivas Prabhu and Pakajagni Prabhu during the Santipur festival, he would roll in the soil during kirtan, because they want to immerse and smear their body and get that uh, current, get that boost from the soil of Mayapur, where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited his pastime. So coming back to this, so the feeling of mingling with the Lord's footprints and Lord's marks are very, very significant, and it gives pleasure to the devotees. And that's the reason why devotees, whenever there is opportunity, when they go to Jagannath Puri, they will just roll on the grand road on Jagannath Puri, because that's where Lord goes on a cart. And that's the reason why wherever Lord has exhibited his pastime, that place is a dham, and that is why people go miles and miles to see the. So once some of the gopis were seeing the footmarks of Krishna, and they were following the footmarks, and they were trying to find where Krishna is, because the footmarks were very prominent, and they were going, and after some time they saw the footmarks. Along with the footmarks, they saw the footmarks of another person. And then the gopis' separation met no bounds. And they realized that there is someone else who is with Krishna. There is some other gopi who is with Krishna, who is doing more devotional service. That's the reason why Krishna is with them. And in that feeling that they have to do more to serve Krishna in such a way that they can uh, be with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because of that, they always have that positive competition to serve Krishna with more and more. And that is why the footmarks, wherever it lands, it gives that emphasis. And often this lotus feet of Krishna is compared as the umbrella. Like umbrella protects us. In the third canto, there are references to lotus feet of Krishna as umbrella. Like umbrella is protecting us from the elements, from the goodness, the badness, and the sadness. Similarly, Lord's lotus feet is like an umbrella, and if we take relief under the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we will be relieved, because Lord is going to protect us. So once the feeling of protection sets in us, we will be surrendering. Because that feeling of protection is not felt, we often don't surrender. And once that feeling of surrender comes, the devotees become fearless, because they have nothing to hide or nothing to fear, because Lord is there to protect them. Because of that feeling of surrender, devotees become powerful. Often the surrender is compared as a sense of weakness by Mayavadis, but actually the sense of surrender is the most powerful expression, because there is somebody who is the most powerful person in the world who is there to protect us. That's why we become fearless. That's why whenever you joined Krishna consciousness, and initially wearing a dhoti became a very taboo situation, but once we realize that we are doing it for the pleasure of our acharyas and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all these little innovations goes away, and people become fearless. They go to dhoti in New York City when they pull the chariot or distribute books. So the feeling of fearlessness comes with this element of surrendering, and the surrendering is where surrendering under the lotus feet of the Lord, which is like an umbrella. And here in this verse which we went through, Kapiladev is referring to the lotus feet of the Lord as somewhere where the darkness is eradicated. If we surrender on this lightning thunderbolts under the victory flag, what are these indicate? These are positive artifacts. These are positive elements under which, if you think about surrendering under the lotus feet of a victory flag, what is that? It is a sign of victory. So when you surrender under these, and what are uh, these items refer? These items are used for the purpose of victory, or for the purpose of showcasing victory, and that is why the crescent moon sign, the the rod sign, the thunderbolt. Whenever there is an element of success, there people express it with so much of positivity. Whenever a bowler takes a wicket, or there is an element of thrill, and this thrill is often compared like a thunderbolt. So Lord's lotus feet has thunderbolts, has victory flags, has crescent moon, and his nails are like rakta. Kapila Muni is referring to Lord's nails as red in color. When Rukmini Maharani was washing the feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, she mentioned that Lord's lotus feet is so beautiful that it is even more beautiful than Lord himself. That is actually Mother Rukmini's impression. And Mother Rukmini is a very great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And she says that Lord's lotus feet is even more beautiful than Lord himself. So, and Lord's lotus feet had that aroma which spreads all around the room. And with that, Mother Rukmini kept on weeping that, let my meditation on your lotus feet be there always and never leaves me, so that I feel protected by the lotus feet of the Lord. And Akrura is a brilliant example, where Akrura, when he is coming to fetch the Lord, seeing the lotus feet of the Lord, he started crying and meditating on the forms of the Lord. So when Krishna and Balram used to go and gaze the cows with no shoes, the entire lush area where the cows gaze is filled with the lotus feet of the Lord and his first expansion, Balaram. And whenever they go, they gaze the cows when they're young, very young. It is referred as the most beautiful feature or most beautiful thing you can ever think of. Lord and Balramji are so beautiful, and with them, this entire uh, set of cows were very happy seeing them. Everybody will be around them, and that and some cows will be licking the lotus feet of the Lord, and they will be gazing, and they will be coming back with so much of happiness that they will give. gallons and gallons of milk because of the sheer happiness, not any form of torture which currently the cows go through in various different creameries. And, uh, and Lord is very dear to his cows, and Vrindavan was more than a heaven when Lord exhibits his pastime there. And now when we speak of Vrindavan, coincidentally, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet imprints, uh, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Pada Padma, wherever Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had gone, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, is being installed in Vrindavan as we speak, in various different places. There is a plan by ISKCON to install the Pada Padma of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in 108 places. If you have gone inside the Jagannath Puri temple, you might have seen the installation of Pada Padma of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just in front of the temple, inside the temple complex. Likewise, there are few which is already there as of now since several years, but the new projects to install the lotus feet or the Pada Padma of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going on, and as we speak, yesterday or day before yesterday, the installation happened in Vrindavan, in one or two places, and those installations, whenever next time you go, you'll see all of that. So the lotus feet of Krishna is very beautiful, and uh, surrendering and taking solace, taking protection under the lotus feet of the Lord, with so beautiful signs, so beautiful indications. And these are very auspicious indications. These indications gives us strength, gives us solace, gives us the the mood to surrender, because Lord's lotus feet, in a prior verse in Canto 3, is referred as an umbrella, and like umbrella gives us protection, Lord's lotus feet gives protection to us. And with that mood of giving protection, if we surrender and meditate on the beautiful lotus feet of the Lord, and this beautiful lotus feet of the Lord can be meditated all the time by devotees, and our mood is led, Lord, keep us under the lotus feet, under his lotus feet, so that we always keep serving and serving and serving, and that gives us the bliss. And by serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead again and again, we derive bliss, and Lord is pleased, and it's a mutual love which happens. And that's the mood of a typical devotee. A real devotee, of course, always wants to be at the lotus feet of the Lord. And Kapila Dev is beautifully explaining, and the first paragraph of the purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about, as lotus features are so prominently explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, why the Mayavadis had to resort to imagination is unthinkable. So whenever you are imagining, Srila Prabhupada is so beautifully explaining, an imagination is an imagination and can only be an imagination, because there is no form to focus on, and you can focus on anything and everything. And that is the reason why that process is full of fallacy, and it's not a wrong process, but it's an incomplete process. And that incomplete process should not be followed, because the information is very clearly given. Sankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma, and so many beautiful features are there in the lotus feet of the Lord. And today we went over some of the 4 or 5 prominent features in the lotus feet of the Lord. And lotus feet of the Lord, in the next 10 verses, next 10 days of Srimad Bhagavatam, we'll be focusing on the lotus feet of the Lord. This is just the beginning, actually. And there are more features which are exemplified in the next verse by Kapila Muni. And we should take a moment to meditate on the victory flag, which is on the lotus feet of the Lord, the crescent moon, which is in the lotus feet of the Lord, and the rod, which is often used to drive away anarthas or wild elephants, for that matter. The example given from us, and the Vajra, the thunderbolt, which is often used in the warfare. So these four elements, and his nails are like beautiful, Doctor. So if you focus purely on these five items: Vajra, the thunderbolt, the rod to drive, the victory flag, the crescent moon, and the nails of the Lord, which are red, full of fragrance, as Rukmini Maharani mentioned, our day will be sublime, and tomorrow we'll have some other objects to meditate on during Srimad Bhagavatam class. So with that, I'd like to end here. Thank you so much for meditating with me on the lotus feet of the Lord. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Madhupati Prabhu may be on altar, Prabhuji. Haribol.
Okay. Okay, so thank you so much. So let's end here by offering prayers in the lotus feet of Lord Nrsingadev by chanting Sri Nrsinga Jaya Nrsimha Jaya Jaya Sri Nrsinga Prahladesu Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Vringam Ugram Veeram Mahavishnu Jalantam Sarvatomukham Nrsinga Bhishanam Bhadra Mrityur Mrityu Namamyam. Let's chant 3 times. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Let's pay obeisance at the lotus feet of all Vaishnavas and Chakalpataru.
Vanchakalpatarubhasya Kripasindhu Patitanam Bhav Vaishnavi Vaishnavi ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. God Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you, everybody. Everybody, Haribol, Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol.